Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 14th, 2018 We the People in Assembly conference call. This is an open call. Its purpose is to bring like-minded folks together who are working to reestablish government centered under both constitutions, the state and the national constitution. We have some very simple rules. First of all, everybody's invited to participate. We especially appreciate our public servants participating. It's important that they comprehend the constitutions as being the law that they commit themselves with their oath of office to operating with. Simple rules are, if you want to speak, when there is a gap, say, "May I?" When you're recognized, try to make your point as succinctly as possible, and then say, "I yield." And that's the signal for the next person to take the floor, and or if you want to branch the discussion, just mention that with a little bit of one or two sentences that you're changing the context. I'd like to just bring you up to date on some reports. These reports are not confirmed reports, but they are coming from reasonably good, solid sources that I've followed for 2 to 3 years, and they're not always right, but they do communicate a lot of information that you cannot get through the mainstream media. One of the reports that came out last night was an intel report that says since Saturday night at 10 o'clock, if you remember, there were 18,500 sealed indictments in the PACER system, and since Saturday night at 10 o'clock, 6,000 of those indictments have led to arrests. So that's about a third of the known indictments at the time. There have been, according to this report, there have been 190 suicides, and there were 4 high-value targets picked up in L.A., which I would assume would be Hollywood. So although it's hard for me to believe that you could arrest 6,000 people and not a peep would leak out into the mainstream media, we do know that the mainstream media is not going to want to promote the information, so it is possibly a sign of how good they are at suppressing it. But I'm not finding any information to confirm this anywhere else, so this is just out of the intel community. In addition, I wanted to bring everybody's attention to a book that Anna von Reitz published called America, Some Assembly Required. And after the call, I'll send it out again for those of you that haven't seen it. But I highly recommend it. It is a quick read. It's 60 pages, but it's broken up into little bites that make it easy to digest. And it was written specifically to help President Trump understand the fraud that's gone on with the municipal United States, the territorial United States, and the de jure United States of America. I'd like to also make a shout out to the folks from Michigan. We are very lucky to have some contributors from the Michigan group. I've had a discussion with them between the last call and this call, and they're recommending that we consider adding a separate call for our assemblies, our county assemblies. And we need to talk about that separately from this call and decide whether that's something that we would like to do or not. In addition, I'd like to mention to everybody that there is a YouTube live streaming site that's called Patriot's Soapbox. and it might be We the People Patriot Soapbox. And this is a group of folks, not just in the U.S., there's some German and Irish participants, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, and they're doing the work of digging into the intel that QAnon is publishing. And Sunday night he published a lot of breadcrumbs, and they did a lot of work on that. But since then, in the last 4 days, we haven't really heard anything from him. But there is a gentleman on that you may know his name. His name is Jerome Corsi. And I didn't know Jerome at all except for the last maybe 8 weeks. And this gentleman is a wealth of knowledge regarding the history of the political system we're in, and day-to-day how the intel drops that are coming fit into the whole puzzle. And Jerome has just published a brand new book called Killing the Deep State. And it's just available on Amazon starting yesterday, I think. And I'd highly recommend it for anybody that's interested to really understand the battles that are going on between President Trump and the white hat military that is supporting him, and the patriots that are supporting him, and the deep state, which is aligned with the New World Order cabal. And there's a lot of deep knowledge in that book coming from Jerome Corsi, C-O-R-S-I. I highly recommend it. I've developed an awful lot of respect for Jerome and his knowledge, and have been quite impressed with his ability to take these hints and weave it into the full story. Many people on the call may know that the evidence is being suggested from the intel drops as of Sunday night that the current Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, is biologically Adolf Hitler's daughter. And it was news to me, but apparently they have very good evidence that support that conclusion. Okay, other than that, I did want to mention, I personally watched President Trump's speech from Milwaukee, I think it was. No, where was it? Pittsburgh. It was outside of Pittsburgh. And I was looking for how well he was doing relative to relating to the people. In my opinion, it seemed to be a very good speech where he's resonating with the folks. And this was after he had cranked up the tariffs on steel by 20%, on aluminum by 10%. And right from the get-go, there is an exemption for Mexico and Canada, but that's because there are separate treaty negotiations going on with NAFTA. And depending upon how we end up with NAFTA will depend upon whether or not there's tariffs on steel and aluminum coming from Canada and Mexico. But notice in the new tariffs that Japan and Europe, both also considered our allies, were not exempt. So the theory is that this is creating a negotiating position, an open negotiating position for President Trump to negotiate treaties, trade treaties with Japan and with Europe. And to a large extent, the trading we do with both countries is not on a level playing field. There's a lot of non-tariff barriers that are impeding the exportation of our American-based products into Japan and into Europe. But then the idea is that President Trump will, before the end of the year, try to wind up the negotiations with both Europe and Japan, and then move on to then negotiate new trade deals with China. And as you might expect, the trading field is not a level field between us and China, and I think we have an imbalance of about $800 billion a year now with China. To a certain extent, in my opinion, what we're watching is a lot of these moves are being made because of the upcoming financial problems we face in this country relative to the fiat currency and the need to strengthen the economy so that we can weather the effort to redo our financial system. It's my opinion that history is very, very clear. All fiat currencies die. It's only a matter of when, and we're getting close to the end, in my opinion, on the U.S. dollar. So since President Trump has been in office, you can see that he's done things that are bringing back manufacturing jobs. He's cranking up the production, the exploration and production of oil to the point where we're now challenging the Soviet Union as the #1 petroleum producer in the world. And a bunch of things like that are designed to really make sure that the economy is strong enough for some of the bumps that are likely coming that have to do with the wind down of the fiat currency and the replacement of it by a currency of substance. It's my suspicion, just my speculation, that we will be going back to gold and silver coin because that's what's specified in the Constitution. And if we do that, I think it would be very, very healthy for the United States and the world. It's my understanding that March 26th, the Chinese gold-backed yuan is going to be starting to be used in trading oil, and there is some concern that that could cause the accelerated depreciation of the petrodollar. The petrodollar is been used for many, many years, since I'd say it was around the early 70s, primarily to facilitate trading, and there was an agreement made around the 1970 timeframe, 70 to 75 timeframe, that Saudi Arabia agreed to only sell their oil in dollar denominations if the quid pro quo was that the U.S. military would keep the king and his family in power. And that was an agreement negotiated, I think, by Kissinger under Nixon at the time. So any questions about the current events? Any comments?
May I?
Yes.
Did Iran a week or two ago quit accepting the American petrodollar for any oil they were selling?
I don't know. That's a good question. It wouldn't surprise me that maybe they stopped accepting it as the sole currency, or they may have just stopped accepting it, period. Don't know.
Yeah, I yield.
If I may?
Yes.
I just wanted to inform everybody that there are several states that are also aware that it looks like we're coming close to the point where the U.S. dollar may collapse in a super hyperinflationary event. One of the states is Alabama, and they just passed a law that will help encourage the use of gold and silver coin as money, and they're taking tax off of sales of gold and silver so that more people, procure that as their money source. This is Captain Carl. I yield.
It's an interesting point, though, that you're making about the collapse of the value of the dollar. Ultimately, what has to happen generally for that to happen is people lose confidence in it. And up until now, they've been able to run the printing presses pretty much freely to keep the government funded. But let's talk about the collapse, because when the dollar was established, it is defined as 1 ounce of 0.999 pure silver.
Mm-hmm.
And the Federal Reserve Bank was voted in unconstitutionally, unlawfully in 1913.
Yeah.
So from 1913 to now, what is a Federal Reserve denominated debt certificate in the value of $1 now worth compared to 1913? Who can help me with that?
$13.50.
I'm sorry?
$13.50, the price of silver.
Well, yeah, but it's the inverse, and it's actually, if you go to buy a silver dollar today, not an ounce of ore, but if you try to buy a silver dollar today, it's like $20 or $22. So that's $1 in 1913. $1 then was equal to 1 silver dollar, and that means today that costs you 22 Federal Reserve dollars. 22. So let's just round it up to 20. If the dollar is worth 1/20th now than what it was in 1913, it means it's down to its last 5 cents. So the collapse Carl is talking about is the collapse of the value of the last 5 cents of the dollar that was initially started by the Federal Reserve in 1913. Now that's pretty stunning. That means 95% of the value of the dollar in 1913 has been inflated away. And that's exactly what the founders knew was going to happen, and that's why they specified only gold and silver could be lawful money. And that showed, in my opinion, a lot of wisdom, and ultimately, in my opinion now, we've got to go back towards lawful money. I yield.
May I?
If I may?
Yes.
Sorry.
The lady
Go ahead,
first.
ma'am.
Lady first, go ahead.
Yeah, all I wanted to mention, Roger, was, I just wanted to clarify, is the global currency reevaluation going on now, or has it already occurred? Or is it going to occur? I'm not clear on that.
I don't know how to predict the future. It's fundamentally unknowable. But I can tell you, in an active world trade situation, the currencies are always being revalued every day, right? Yep. So if you looked at how trade goes forward, like Germany's exporting BMWs to the world, and Saudi Arabia's exporting oil, and Brazil's exporting bananas. These things, the prices move around, and basically the currencies move based on the strength of their economy. So it's always going on, and in my opinion, some people are thinking that there's going to be a major step function revaluation of the currencies. Well, certainly if we came out with a silver dollar once again, then all the prices at Walmart would have to be remarked to the point where 1 silver dollar would be worth about what today the price mark at Walmart would be 22 Federal Reserve dollars. Right? So there would be a major step function change if we went back to lawful money. But in terms of trade around the world, I don't see how there could be some kind of massive change all of a sudden so that BMWs got much cheaper, or oil got much cheaper or more expensive, because it's being freely traded in large quantities. So I don't think that there's going to be some kind of arbitrary change that will change the competitiveness between nations, best I can tell.
Well, thank you, and I yield.
Someone else asked for the floor?
Yes. This is Captain Carl again. I just wanted to relate to you. I think your calculations are pretty close, but some of my fellow colleagues at Von Mises, we believe that the value of the dollar is now worth somewhere between 1 to 2 cents. We believe that when there is a hyperinflationary event, the super hyperinflation, there will be building inflation just through the normal course of economics as the economy improves. But that isn't what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the sudden hyperinflationary event where for the BRICS and other nations, in other words, Brazil, India, Russia, and China, drop all their U.S. dollar-based assets. Right now they're getting rid of them as quickly but as slowly as they possibly can so that they don't cause a panic, because every single one of those countries out there, they know that the last one to be left holding the bag or dropping his U.S. dollar-based assets is going to be, like I said, left holding the bag, and they don't want that to happen. But a lot of us believe that the current value of the dollar is actually 1 to 2 cents on the dollar. What does that mean? What does that look like? That means when the hyperinflationary collapse happens, we believe it's sometime between April and November of this year, everything will cost as much as 50 times more than it does today. So just take a price of a fuel or something and just multiply it times 50. We believe that somewhere within a week, some of us think 72 hours, the cost will be 50 times more. So do your own calculations. I yield.
Okay, I find it hard to believe that that's going to work that way, because ultimately, who could afford gasoline at $100 a gallon, right? 50 times $2 a gallon. Nobody could afford it, so all of a sudden the producers wouldn't have any buyers. And it's just hard for me to see that happening. I understand the theory, but it's hard for me to practically see that that's going to happen.
Yeah, copy that. It's going to be an absolute disaster, and we believe it'll be similar to, if you want to have an analogy, the movie The Day That the Earth Stood Still. We think that that's going to happen in America, and it's going to be an absolute disaster. If you want to have an example, there's a movie on Argentina. You need to watch that movie in Argentina and see how it happened to them. And also, we know that the exact same thing is happening in Venezuela right now today. The same thing happened, according to my colleague Yuri Maltsov, who was the economic advisor for Gorbachev, happened to Russia, and that's what created the Soviet Union. The same thing happened to the Weimar Republic, and that's what created the Nazi Party. So these are things that, if we don't get a handle on these things real quick, you know, these are some of the things that we can see happening yet later this year. I yield.
Well, it's hard to comprehend that. If you drive across the country, like I'm sure you have done, you see a tremendously productive country. And certainly the cities are dysfunctional, where you have large amounts of transfer payments going on, where the government is taking money from productive people and giving it to unproductive purposes. And in my opinion, most of the disruptions are likely to occur where things are being subsidized by the government. So let's just spend a couple minutes and talk about where are some of the big subsidies going. Who can help me? Where are some of the big government subsidies going that are distorting the market?
May I?
Yes.
Where the big, where the props or subsidies are going right now, but what probably they will do is throw some sort of price control or support when it comes to fuel, because we got to keep fuel going so they can keep the machine going. I yield.
Well, don't forget that we're no longer importing oil on the world scale. For the last 20, 30 years, we were always a big net importer. We're now exporting petroleum products and raw material. So it's going to be hard. There's not going to be a need necessarily for price supports for petroleum, because we've got plenty of it and we're exporting it. So the world market should set the price on that. Give me an example another example, I agree there's some arguments about petroleum being subsidized by depletion credits, where you tap into an oil reservoir and you start draining it. You do get to write off that asset. You must capitalize it first and then write it down. But the latest theory, early in my life, I was taught that raw petroleum came out of the ground as a function of high pressure acting on organic molecules. And that theory now is passé, according to the American Petroleum Association, and that the production, if you look at the curves in the United States of the production of petroleum, for example, from Texas, what happens is it goes up a ramp and then it flattens out, and it's like a tabletop. It doesn't go up to a peak and then drop. It goes up to a level and just goes steady state. And that's because the theory is that there are some microbes chewing on methane molecules, and they're producing the black raw material we call petroleum. So that's a very different theory of it, and that it's not really a fossil fuel at all. Someone else, please help me with major segment of subsidies in our economy.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Sugar, dairy products, agriculture products, food stamps, welfare, housing.
Okay, let's talk about food. Russ is right. Domestically produced sugar is subsidized not only, I think, with price supports, but also import restrictions. So the world price of sugar is a lot less than the price of sugar inside the United States of America. Furthermore, the development of the agricultural base in the U.S. was accelerated to the point where we were vastly overproducing corn back in the 50s and 60s, and much of it was being exported, and this is before it became genetically modified corn, which those of you on the call may know, Europe does not allow any genetically modified organisms into their food products. So, and there's a reason for that. They've determined that the whole idea behind genetically modified food is that you don't need to spray them with insecticide because they produce it naturally, and that material, that molecule, is not good for healthy beings, whether it's animals or people. So Europe refuses to allow any genetically modified food products into their economy. So what some bright folks did in the Department of Agriculture is they said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll take a bunch of the surplus corn and we'll create these feedlots, and we'll have the farmers send their bovines. And the bovine has a natural tendency to eat grass and leaves, and instead we'll put them in feedlots and we'll shove them full of corn, which their digestive system doesn't work well on. And in order to grow them faster, we'll give them a bunch of growth hormones. And in order to keep them alive, we'll give them a bunch of antibiotics.
Right, that's right.
Okay, so in essence, on top of that subsidy that the government set up, they also set up the subsidy for corn for the production of ethanol. And my guess is it's something like 10 or 20% of our corn production now gets used in ethanol. And if the government is going bankrupt, which we know it is, and it needs to stop funding crazy stuff, Well, that's one area that I would expect would get cut pretty quickly, in which case it would take a while for the market to adjust, but over time, I would expect the raw material, corn, to go down in price because of the lack of subsidies. I yield. Any other areas of subsidy? How about military?
Milk and cheese. Milk and cheese.
How about military industrial complex?
Enormous, yes.
How about all of the consulting firms in and around D.C.?
Yeah, you're right. May I?
Yes.
Before we get too far into this, because it's a little bit after 8, do we have any updates on some of the issues going on, like what happened with Charlotte County, or is there the common law? I just want to stay updated on those things before we run out of time, if there's anything up.
Sure, great.
You?
Yep. Well, last call. I just want people's eyes and ears to be open for the fact that the government and the press is not telling us the issues about the risks in front of the economy, some of which Captain Carl talked about. And I, for one, advocate that you make sure your family has some extra food, some silver dollars, some extra water or water filter, just in case we hit some rough times. In terms of an update, Charlotte County is still in process. We have received none of the information that the grand jury ordered delivered, and I would suggest that it's going to be another week or two before we have any update on that. It is going to be slow progress, but it will be forthcoming. In the case of Bruce Doucette in Colorado, I think everybody knows that he was convicted by the jury. They used the same technique they used for Terry Trussell and prevented the jury from hearing the truth. And he is now scheduled to be sentenced on May 22nd. There are some new techniques and strategies that we're proposing for Bruce to use, and he's seriously considering them now.
Mayor?
Yes.
Roger, Bob House.
Hi, Bob.
I missed you a little bit ago. What's going on in Charlotte County?
Well, the Charlotte County case is the case where my brother was involved in an entrapment.
Right.
And they,
I understood that. I saw that before.
Demand by the grand jury, the Florida statewide grand jury, to produce oaths and bonds has not been complied with. So I think it'll take another week or so before I'll be able to report any progress on that.
Let me back up a little bit. I thought that they dropped all the charges.
They did. The case is closed, but it's not closed from the grand jury's point of view.
Wait a minute. Whose grand jury?
The Florida statewide grand jury.
And now, how did it come to that grand jury when there's no evidence and they dropped all charges?
The way this works, Bob, is, and for everybody's benefit, there is a document called a demand to amend with no delay. Those words come right out of the Magna Carta. And my brother signed that document, which demands basically that the grand jury insert itself between the victim and the government that's attacking the victim. So the grand jury is involved in the case, and the grand jury is doing its investigation and will likely decide down the road what to do about the criminal activities if it does find them.
From what I understand of what you put out before, and this is me as a law enforcement officer that I used to be, your brother was set up and it's a clear-cut case. And are you trying to tell me that once he picked up that package and he got arrested, and it went to a court. That court deemed that official?
Yeah, the case was started. He was arrested. He bonded out. They put 3 different felony charges against him in the docket. I can send you the case number. You can look up the docket. He filed his affidavit into the public record, got a certified copy, put it into the court record.
Send me all this information on this, would you please?
Yeah, I'll just send you the case number, and you can look up the docket.
Yep, I'll find everything. I'll get into it.
Yep.
Like a hog in the shit. Believe me.
Okay.
I'll get into it.
Very good.
May I get some?
It doesn't make any sense because it's obviously a setup. And it
but Bob, the thing that's going on now is the grand jury.
We're going to continue on with that, with letter to the president. Hopefully.
Okay. Someone else asked for the floor. Go ahead.
If I may, Roger.
Yeah.
Is there 2 grand juries involved, a de facto and a de jure?
No, just one.
Okay. And you're talking about a de facto grand jury?
No.
Statewide?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Yep.
Roger, if I may?
Yes.
Okay, I am very interested in using the same system, okay, because you and I talked about this yesterday. Once I am working on getting together a grand jury, I think it's going to come together pretty quickly, I think. Once I have the grand jury all selected and picked out and ready to assemble, can you or somebody, I'd feel kind of funny if I tried to handle it myself. Would you or somebody help to educate the grand jury about, how we're going to do this or something, kind of help facilitate the grand jury? I yield.
Sure, we'll be happy to help support you remotely, but also I think there's at least one other person I know of there on the land that knows an awful lot about it, and we can help through that individual also.
If I may?
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, I don't know who was asking that question, Roger, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
But please, the first thing you need to remember this, it's secret. You don't speak about it. All right? So just remember that it's secret. If you want to know how everything worked in that case, if you go to We the People Common Law Grand Jury, it's all explained on how to do it. It's the latest videos that have just been put up. All right? So go to We the People Common Law Grand Jury. Now.
Can I interrupt, if I may?
No, hang on a second, please. Chris, for clarity, I was at that site about 3 days ago, and there was nothing about the Charlotte County case up then.
It showed you how to do. It showed you how to do everything. It didn't make any. It didn't say anything about the case itself.
I see. Okay, very good.
It showed you how to go through the 4 steps to go through the process. You can't. It can't be any more clear. It's all by video, so you have to listen to the video, and it shows you where it all comes from.
Is there one specific video you're referring to?
Hang on.
Chris, can I get
is there one video you're referring to?
Hang on. I'm just trying to get to it real quick here.
Okay.
He's looking for it. In the meantime, Roger, he's correct, 100% correct. It is secret. It is secret. And we all know that. The grand jury is secret.
Thank you, Bob.
And the members on that jury are secret.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So if you look at the very first video when that comes up, you're going to see some recent updates, and it's going to talk about the anniversary of the Confirmation Catarum, which made the Magna Carta. It confirmed the Magna Carta. So you have to do your training to yourself. So you have to learn all this. Okay. It's important that you learn it so you can understand it. Because if you don't understand it, it sounds like mumbo jumbo. But you have to remember that, back in 1215, there was only basically one government. It was Great Britain, So that was it. There was France and Spain and all that. But that Magna Carta was written for our posterity, for our life, for the rest of our lives, right? So then it talks about some there's some other links in there, and then you can look down a little bit further, and you can find some other things. Now, I got an email the other day. It was on maybe that was not put on the website yet, but that's where you need to at least start. And also, the email that you just sent us with that thing from NLA?
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, it's invalid.
Because?
Because you cannot read the jury foreman's signature.
Right. They are forced, unfortunately, to do that for fear of retribution, but I agree with you. You're supposed to be able to identify that.
It is not honorable.
Yep.
It's not. That's an evil custom.
Yep.
That's what people in the de facto do.
Right.
That kind of stuff. We cannot be part of that.
Right. Good catch.
Roger?
Yes, Bob.
If I can get Chris's email, I did a rewrite of the Magna Carta, 1215, somewhat, to make people understand and show them that when we in the Magna Carta, it says we, they, them, us, and to clarify what that is all about. I've done that, and nobody's ever retaliated about it yet. But I'd like to send that to Chris and get his input on that.
Okay,
sure.
Why don't you send it to me? I'll send it to Chris with your email address, if that's okay with you.
I can do that.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Roger,
all right.
You've already got it. I sent it to you about 3 times.
I have one more thing.
I'll send it to you again.
Yes, Chris.
Okay. If you're looking for some meat that were the cattle or the bison or whatever they sell here, I have a bunch of things to sell, wild hog, everything. They're all grass-fed, no corn, no chemicals of any kind. It's Three Sons Ranch in Punta Gorda. I urge you to go there. You can buy online. You just go to their their store. And you can buy this stuff online, and it's free shipping over $100. It's worth it. I've had the bison. It's awesome.
Wait a minute, Chris, say that again. Repeat that. One more time, please.
Three Sons, S-U-N-S, Three Sons Ranch, Punta Gorda, and it's threesonsranch.com.
Yeah, they're just down the road from me, and that's Roger. Aren't you associated with them?
Yeah, we didn't.
That's my son-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's where the buffalo are raised, right?
Correct.
Right. That's the bison.
And I raise a whole bunch of pigs. I got a lot of them myself.
All right. Okay, let's go back to the subject, guys.
May I?
Yes.
Okay. When you were talking about the surety, the oaths of office for the Charlotte County for those 25 people that were mentioned in when the statewide grand jury asked for their oaths of office and their bonds, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Andrew Sheets with Charlotte County COPWATCH, he filed a Freedom of Information Act, and he did get 2 of the sureties, the oaths of office, but the dodos, and I got a copy of them, and what they did was blacked out, redacted is the buzzword they use, who the surety bonds are for. So we did get 2 surety bonds. We just don't know of the 25 people who they're for.
I sent those to Andrew.
Huh?
This is Bob. I sent that information to Andrew Sheets.
Right.
Yes, Andrew Sheets is the one that got it, I thought, but wherever it came from.
I sent it to him. I sent him the information that none of the county commissioners are certified. None of them are in legal positions whatsoever, simply because of their own writings and their own documentation. None of them have a bond, and all of them only have one witness to their oath, and the witnesses to their oaths are not certified witnesses. You understand?
Yeah, because it wasn't done in front of a notary.
It was not in a notary, right. And that makes them illegally, totally 100%. I don't care what anybody else says, but I've known this for 2 years, and I sent this to Andrew recently. But because We cannot take action against these people right now. We have to wait until our time comes. Understand?
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. I just want to let Roger know that we actually got 2, but we don't know who they're for.
Yep, I got it.
If I may.
Yes, Chris.
We have already done this.
What?
That's what we're doing now with the case with David. That's what we're doing right now. We're telling them that they don't have all this. They don't have their oaths of office. They don't have their bonds and so forth. We're already doing it. That's
right.
But
let me just be clear here. It's not us. It's the grand jury, right? The grand jury and the grand jury administrators on behalf of the grand jury.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
And when would be the timeline for them to get something to us besides the 3 weeks ago or something? When's the next timeline?
The ball is now in the grand jury administrator's field or hand, and they've got a bunch of work that's going on that they got to clear through. So it's a matter of getting to the next step with Charlotte County, and the ability to get there is constrained by all the other work that's in the queue.
Okay. You mean in the queue for that the statewide common law grand jury gave them that they're still working on? Is that what you meant?
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. And so the same question is, when might we ever find any of that out?
Emilia.
I think it'll be probably about 2 to 3 weeks before I'll have a progress report that has some meat to it.
Okay, I yield. Thank you.
Now, don't forget that what I'll be reporting to you is what is going to be publicly available.
Sure.
That's all that can be recorded.
Okay, open mic, any subject. We talked about the progress of the common law grand jury. We talked about a bunch of stuff on the national scale and the potential for economic problems coming up. The one thing we haven't talked about that was kind of a surprise to me in Florida, at least, our legislature, in a reaction to the school shooting in Parkland, passed a bill, and buried in that bill is some very, very nasty language, which actually, if it's interpreted literally, causes people sitting at home with their guns to become felons, because it says anything that speeds up the rate of fire without specifying a rate of fire, anything, any accessory, any bump stock, anything that speeds up the rate of fire, you cannot possess it. So if you've got a long rifle in your inventory and it's got a trigger that might speed up by a fraction of a millisecond the ability of that weapon to fire, you're a felon.
If I may on that point, Roger?
Yes.
In Massachusetts, they told everybody that they had to turn their bump stocks in. Guess how many they got?
Not many.
4.
There you go.
That's all they've gotten.
Yep.
If I may.
Yes.
If I may. Yeah, so that bill that you just spoke of applies to citizens and people that are subject to that jurisdiction, and it does not apply to people that are on the land that are protected by the actual Constitution. I stand down.
Yeah, I pointed that out to a few people that were pretty upset about it, but they're still upset that it applies to citizens.
Roger, man.
Yes.
If you guys go to Oath Keepers and scroll down to Good Guys with Guns, where they just simply show a sign, victims who shoot back live longer, I actually put a comment in there. And what happens in Oath Keepers, they screen this stuff and they make sure that that you know, if you're going to say something positive or good or whatever, they'll put it on their site. I'm going to read that site to you right now, and if you all want to go there, you can go. You can see it. And I'm not knocking Oath Keepers now, believe me.
Right, but Bob, if you could, we're right to the end of the call. Could you just give us the link?
The link, yeah, go to Oath Keepers.
Yeah.
And then go to the site. Once you get on the main page, go to Victims Who Shoot Back Live Longer. There's a big sign there. And it's Good Guys with Guns. It says Good Guys with Guns. This is the link. And scroll down, all the way down. You're only going to go down probably 2 links to comments. I am the tree farmer. TREFARMEHR. Tree farmer house. With 1 E in the tree.
Yep.
Okay? And that's my comment.
Got it.
And it's all there. It's all right there because there's no way that they could prove that this child did these things. Not in my book, as long as I'm living as a cop and I know how to investigate crimes. There is no way that this kid has done this stuff.
May I?
Yes.
No way.
Yes, you may.
I'm not calling for it. I ain't going for it.
Okay, Bob, please yield.
I yield.
Thank you.
Yes, this is just a remark for, I don't know who the gentleman was talking about, the surety company that they couldn't find. I have a suggestion that they look through their Board of County Commissioner meeting minutes, and they may find a payment in it. Well, that's how I did it for Marion County. I yield.
Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
We're talking about the global currency and reset. Do know that the government is really looking very closely at cryptocurrency. You better get on board if you're not. Cryptocurrency is the future, and right now you can control your own future by getting your own wallet and choosing your own currency. There's so much information online. But be careful. I mean, do be careful. But cryptocurrency is your future, and it's not fiat money.
Right, but it's
the money.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It has no substance, right? It's not backed by gold or silver, right?
Correct.
Yes, that's correct. It's not backed by gold or silver. It's backed by people. People.
Right. But there have been, and when you say you warn people to be careful, there have been some serious problems with people losing their investment because the storage place that they kept it went bankrupt and or was victimized by theft. It was
That's because they didn't do their due diligence. As long as you get a secure wallet and you're not online with it,
yep,
you should be just fine. I've been doing cryptocurrency for 6 years. I've made a ton of money in it, and although you have to stay in it, but I'll tell you, we know the government is, and actually, the CIA is the one who created cryptocurrency.
Yep.
Okay, and they were just testing it to see how it would work. Well, guess what? Now I think the government's going to, that's going to be their next play, I think, in the U.S.
Okay. Thank you. I know a few people on the call are into cryptos, and maybe we should have a separate session on that next week. But make sure everybody heard Cheryl's warning that you need to do your homework, do your due diligence, because it is got a lot of risks in it. A lot of people have done very well, and some people have been hurt.
Yeah, overall, I'd have to say I mean I've had some missteps, but that's part of the learning curve too. But I mean nothing major in any way, shape, or form, and I was able to correct the stance pretty So if you understand cryptocurrency and you know how to move in the market, my gosh, I mean, you can set yourself up for, I mean, there's a lot of day traders doing it. I'm not willing to do that, but there are day traders that are making tons.
Yep. Thank you, Cheryl. Last call.
If I may.
Yes, Russ.
I'd like to, Rod Class talked about his Supreme Court case. I'm sorry, I just learned about it yesterday myself on TalkShoe, Angela Stark, and I've only gotten to 45 minutes of it. It might be as much as 90 minutes, but I'll send you the link to that. I think everyone will find it very interesting of Rod's knowledge, brilliance, courage, and what he went through to get where he is right now, went on the Supreme Court. So I'll send you the link, and everybody listen. I hope we can,
this is where Rod is being interviewed?
Yes, with Angela Stark on TalkShoe. He's on TalkShoe virtually every week.
Okay, I will send it out as soon as you give it to me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
He has his own calls, his own conference calls, too.
Yes, he does. But he's on, I'm telling you, he's on TalkShoe, and I'll send the link. Angela Stark.
Great.
There you go.
Okay,
also, if I may.
Yes.
Destry Payne, who was on the call last week, thank you very much for having him on. I'm on his Thursday night call, and your suggestion tonight that you should have your own assembly call. I have one here. I have a Zoom conference on Tuesday night with North Carolina people. But Destry owns the NESARA website, and I recommend you get on that right now because there is a lot of really good information. He has a lot always, but there's new stuff. Anna Van Wright's got several good things on there. It's a couple of videos. I haven't even had time to look at it. Talking about poison us with lithium. That's the jet trails, or what do you call them? The trails in the sky, anyway. But get on this, Sarah, learn about that site. There's an awful lot on it, but right now there's a lot of really current stuff on it.
Great. I'll send that out, too.
Okay. I yield.
Come back on that site.
NESARA. NESARA. Just do a Google search and you'll find the website.
Okay, and what time is the conference or whatever?
No, his conference is on Thursday night at 9 o'clock out of Michigan. And I'll send the phone number to Roger for that also. And it's on, they try to confine it to assemblies only. Don't talk about a lot of other things. So we can get assemblies going in this country. And I have my own in North Carolina, which is just getting going. I got about only even half dozen people, but I got a mailing list of 250 I'm going to get going as I get it organized. I yield.
Hey, Russ, has anything come about of the veteran organizations that you were that you're tied in with?
No, that one fellow that I thought was going to go with us with his child was kidnapped, we found is in the town and probably with a foster parent, and he knows that the school that he's going to, it's a preschool. And I talked with him and Beryl, and he doesn't want to go on it right now, and he hasn't gotten back with me, and that was over a month ago. He's trying to handle things himself. So I just did read, though, where Sawyer, Sawman, went down to the border. He didn't say what border, with Texas, California, and started seeing what's going on. So he's active, but I haven't kept up with him a lot. But what I was involved in hasn't transpired at all.
Got it. All right, folks. It's past 8:30. I appreciate your support. We want everybody to be very careful about the situation the country's in right now. Just be watchful. We do believe that there are arrests going on and that there may be some blowback from those arrests. The rumors were that there were some riots planned for some of the bigger cities. In addition, another rumor came out today that the next planned false flag was going to be in Houston or Dallas or both. I don't know any of the evidence to support that claim. I'm just putting it out there. Thank you very much for your support. Have yourself a great night. Talk to you next week.
One quick message.
I'm sorry?
One quick message.
Roger.
This is Bob. to
No, wait, Bob.
to
Someone
Charlotte
else first.
County
Go ahead.
COPWATCH.
Just
Charlotte
a minute,
County
Bob.
COPWATCH. This is Bob.
Just a minute, Bob. Go ahead.
Roger, you were absent, and you had a host who never said his name, and he had Judge Mickey on the phone. Do you know who that was?
Yes, that was Don Chavone.
Yeah, I'd like to get in touch with him.
Okay, I will get you his email so long as it's okay with him.
Okay, great. Or send him mine.
Okay, I'll send him yours.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Charlotte County COPWATCH. Call me when you can about being set up, because I believe in what he's talking about, and I know they're doing it to me too. So, thank you.
I'm sorry, you're asking for Charlotte County COPWATCH to call you?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think he's on the call, Bob.
Well, he'll probably listen to it, though.
Okay. All right, have a good night, folks. Thanks for your support.
Okay, good night.
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it. So I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head, help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.